Welcome to the Freedom Blueprint Show, a podcast about creating the lifestyle you want through your small business. Drawing on their experiences starting and running multi-million-dollar small businesses, three friends, Jon, Ryan, and Gabe, discuss how to have a business, but more importantly, a lifestyle you love.
Hello, all you cool cats and kittens. We are back for another episode of our podcast with Ryan, Gabe, and myself. So, Mr. Robeson, I see you are in the car today.
I am, yeah. You know what I hate about videos in the car when people do them? Is it makes it look like they're driving on the right-hand side of the car. And like, mentally, I've never been able to figure out how that works.
I mean, do they know they're on the wrong side when they do that? Like, that seems like crazy. You're driving on the wrong side of the road? What's that about?
When you watch like Instagram videos and stuff. Anyway, sorry. Side subject. Super excited to be on the call with you guys today, but I am driving, so I apologize for that.
So where are you headed?
Yeah, where are you going, man?
Oh man, it's kind of good that we're talking because I was a little bit nervous about this conversation I'm about to have, and maybe this will help me kind of get pumped up and be okay with it. So I think you guys know. In fact, I think on these episodes I've only talked about the one photography company that I'm buying. Well, I'm actually buying two photography companies, and they happen to be the biggest in our market. And when I say big, like one of them shoots 20,000 shoots a year, the other one shoots like 22,000 shoots a year, which is huge, right? That's 40,000 combined. Well, 50 full-time photographers and shooting 40,000 houses a year. Pretty cool stuff. This all sounds really exciting, guys, but it's this whole merger process is just seeming like it's going to be a pain in the butt, but I'm looking forward to the challenge. So to answer your question, I'm on the way to go meet with company number 2 to tell the guy that I just bought his business yesterday that has been running for 12 years that I bought his biggest competitor, and I'm really curious to see how he's going to react, if he's going to punch me in the nose or if he's going to be excited for me.
And so my first question is, why would he be upset by that?
So you guys probably.
Or is it not relevant for the podcast?
No, it's fine. It's an emotional thing, not a logical thing. Logically, you shouldn't. But emotionally, it's, hey, why didn't you tell me about this? Why, you deceived me. There could be some of those feelings that could come out. I think it's doubtful, but it's possible.
What?
Yeah.
So just so I understand, because I'm not following fully, you bought a business, you bought the first photography business, and you just closed on a second one, correct? And you're on the way to talk to the guy you just closed on, or the first one?
The second one.
So the guy that you just recently closed on. So you're going to tell him that you previously already purchased a competitor, basically.
Correct. And
Yeah, so Ryan, so you cut out there for a minute, dude. What were you saying before you cut out?
look, I think you'll be fine. I think there's a sense of like betrayal, or like you hoodwinked me and you didn't tell me about it. You should have just told me about that, or I may not have sold to you if I knew that, all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, like, it's interesting, like, so, and do you need his support, in other words, like, let's say it's a worst case scenario situation and he's like pissed, he's like, what the hell, man, you weren't transparent with me, I'm mad, what happens then? Like, can he really make your life more difficult with just the onboarding process and stuff?
Well, here's the reality. I mean, like, first of all, this is going to preserve his legacy, right? Like, I'm acquiring his photography, his competitor, and now, his company is going to be the biggest in town, and it's going to really preserve his legacy, to be honest with you. I think he'll be more excited for me. His brother, who's the head IT guy, which I absolutely think is awesome and amazing, and I want him to stay on, but he's one of the vital employees of the business. So, if they get rubbed the wrong way, you can see how that could go downhill very fast.
And is that typical, Ryan, when you're buying a small business? Like, so how many, like, what percentage of the employees do you think that do you want to keep in an ideal scenario, and how many do you think you will keep? Like, how does that whole thing work when a business transitions ownership?
So I talked to one of my mentors last night, and it's important in these situations to have a mentor, like people that have done this before. And he gave me good advice. Like, I had actually planned on going and meeting with the executive team of company number 2 and explaining to each one of the executive team that we bought company number 1. And he said, no, you got to go meet with the owner first, the guy that you bought it from, and just give him that respect and then go meet with everybody. I was like, that's probably, if he hears it from someone else and not from me, he's going to then start feeling like, okay, there was something sneaky going on, right? So,
I'm not talking about that specific. I was just more in general, you know what I mean, when it comes to buying small businesses. Like, how did it go with all that?
So I was talking, sorry, that's where I was going with that. I was talking to my mentor last night, and he made a comment that within a year, you're going to probably lose 80% of the employees. I was like, holy crap. Now, he's bought like 8 companies in the last 2 years. I don't know if that's true or not, but it happens. I mean, you come in and make culture. I know, you come in and you make culture changes, and you make, process and policy changes. Like, I was just on the phone with one of the employees right before I got on this call, and he's like, hey, I've got 100 hours of accrued PTO. Do I get to roll all that in next year? How does that work? And I'm like, this is stuff I didn't think about before about the company, right? Those are just details that I forgot to ask about.
Yeah.
So.
And how many of them do you feel like what percentage do you feel like you need that you want to keep in an ideal scenario? Do you want to keep, let's say 70% or something, and we would plan to probably get rid of the lowest performing, 20 to 30%, or like, what's your mental model here, in general with buying these two businesses?
So I've spent a lot of time during my due diligence to focus on that. So I've got the org chart of both companies, and I have a combined org chart. And that's where you get the most of the savings, is finding efficiencies in people. From a leadership perspective, I'm not going to make a bunch of changes. There's enough in doubling inside. There's enough people to where it creates new leadership positions, if that makes sense. But like from a lower level perspective, we should find efficiencies where we don't need as many photographers. We don't need as many customer service reps. Like, there's a lot of efficiencies you can find there.
And what's the I'm not following, like, what's the purpose of telling him, like, altogether? Is he still going to be involved with you as you take over this company? Like, what's the purpose of telling him?
He's not. So there's a couple things. One, reputation wise, if he hears it from somebody else and not from me, there's a very high chance that he starts to make things up in his head about what's really going on, and doesn't get the chance to sit down and talk to me logically and ask me questions about it that I can answer. And as soon as that happens, and he goes down a bad path, and he hears it from somebody else who spins it their own way, right? Then you got reputation issues, you got company reputation issues. I mean, you just don't know what he says to people when people ask him about it, about me personally. And that could affect me long term in a way that is just, why not go sit down and address it with them up front?
So what's the fear? The fear is that he thinks you're a shark by buying another company, and that you're going to cut half the staff or 80% of the staff that you basically took over, that you told him at one point you weren't going to cut. Like, well, what's the fear?
That part of it. Yeah, that's part of it. Or, this was a plan all along, and you had this plan, and who knows? I mean, you don't know what people make stuff up in their head. People go down roads, and the way my mentor told me, he's like, dude, this is how lawsuits start. Like, it's just not worth it to swallow your pride, go sit down and talk to them, and you're just going to avoid a bunch of potential headache and like an hour of my time to go have a tough conversation that most people don't want to deal with conflict. It's worth it to me to save me a potential issue in the future.
I think you're probably, in my opinion, I think you're probably blowing out of the water, like from a proportion standpoint. I would have a really hard time believing that this guy is going to make a big deal about it. I mean, he sold you the company. I mean, what the hell does he matter if you bought another company to merge with it or not? Like, I don't know.
Because
that's just my thought.
Emotions tied to it for 12 years. Not just selling the company. It's a hard thing for him to let go of. He cares about his people. All kinds of stuff. There's reasons there, but if he hears it from somebody else and not me, that's the issue.
Well, I think, this is an interesting subject, but I think more interesting to the listeners, I would imagine, would be like more of the, like, painting the picture a little more, Ryan, for kind of what you did and why you did it. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, like, can I ask you, like, what attracted you to this, right? Because you were looking at commercial real estate, you're looking at buying businesses. What made you want to buy a business instead of just buy a commercial property, for example? Like, how did you think about why are you doing this?
So I have an established real estate business, right? I've got cash flow. I'm involved in flipping properties, excuse me. And, you know, I've always had this desire to build a company and sell it to a private equity company. And, you know, I'm going to take the current net incomes of roughly 1.2 to 1.3 million and get them up to 2 million just from efficiencies of a merger. And like anyone out there that owns a business, if you could buy your competitor, there's so freaking net income that you could add to your bottom line and like almost double their net income just in the efficiencies. So that's what's super exciting to me about the mergers and acquisition process that I hadn't really thought of before. Like I had never really had a case study to sit down and analyze. Like, I don't need 2 QuickBooks. I don't need 2 of this. I don't need 2 of this. I can eliminate this. I can find efficiencies here and there. And so bigger picture, I want to grow this thing to 5 or 10 million in net income and then sell it for 40 to 80 million.
Okay. And then go ahead.
So you think this business would sell for about an 8x multiple? Is that what I just heard?
Correct.
So basically, just by doing a mergers and acquisitions, you're going to increase the bottom line by 800,000. So you're basically just from the merger and acquisition alone, you're basically creating about 6.4 million in equity.
So I don't think it's worth eight times at a $2 million EBITDA. I think at a $2 million EBITDA, I'm conservatively saying it's worth 4 times EBITDA. Okay. It might be worth more, but the reality is just from making the merger happen, which is going to take work. It doesn't just you buy 2 companies and they're merged. Like it's going to take hard work for 6 months. But just for making the merger happen and getting that to 2 million, I'm now worth 8 million, which is a lot more than what I paid for both of them. So I'm creating that net worth in the merger.
You're creating $3 million in net worth with 6 months, even call it a year. Say it takes you a year to do it right. In a year, you basically created $3 million in equity.
I paid less than 5 million, so it's more than that, but yeah.
And why did you choose this instead of the commercial real estate route that you were also considering? You're looking at apartment buildings and stuff like that.
This is, you know what's really cool is after a small amount of time, I checked my bank account and I've got a bunch of cash sitting in there relatively to the small amount of time. Let me clarify. So what I love about this business is it's not capital intensive where real estate is. When I was flipping properties, I mean, there was just never a day where I had more than $200,000 in my account. On paper, I was worth a lot of money, you know, relatively to, you know, maybe somebody having a 6-figure job. But in my cash account, I had nothing. So these businesses generate a lot of cash and they do well in a downturn. So as the market drops, more and more properties get listed and more properties need to get photos taken. So this is kind of to cover my butt. One of the reasons is, other than that, I'm interested in the industry and I'm excited and I love learning new things, but it's going to be a CYA during a downturn and then provide a lot of cash that I can then potentially use to buy more real estate in the next downturn.
Okay.
Well, and you're building equity too, right? Because in the real estate company, I mean, there's really no equity in those businesses, you know?
Yeah.
And can you talk about the numbers? So what did you buy these things for? How did you finance them? And what were they doing before you bought, you know, like on day -1, you know, what were they doing in top line, you know, revenue and bottom line net income, if you're able to share any of that?
Yeah, I can't talk about individual net incomes for confidentiality reasons, but, you know, gross between the 2 of them, they're roughly 6 million in revenue.
And can you talk about how much you're paying for?
No, I can't. I mean, somewhere between
how about the financing?
3 and 4 million. Somewhere between 3 and 4 million.
Okay. And how about the financing? How are you financing the purchases?
So one of them I got a carry, and the other one I just paid cash for.
And what were the terms on the seller carry?
Yeah, ideally you want to get. Yeah, I got pretty good terms on it, but you know, ideally you want to get a carry in these situations. You know, unfortunately with one of the companies, just the only way I can get the deal done was paying cash. And because normally it wouldn't have been a good deal, but because the merger made so much sense, I was okay with it.
And why'd you have to pay cash? Couldn't you have gotten an SBA loan or something?
That was going to be my question. Can you just refi now with SBA?
Here's the problem with SBA. So SBA, because I own so much real estate, first of all, their rates oftentimes are like 5, 6, 7%. They're not amazing rates. But even if you're able to get a good rate, they have different SBA programs. Even if you're able to get in that 3, 4% range, SBA requires put a deed of trust, blanket deed of trust on your real estate. So I was like, well, it would just be cheaper for me to go get a loan on my real estate and buy the business free and clear instead of collateralizing the business and the real estate.
You have to collateralize all your real estate to get the SBA loan?
Yeah, or maybe they have some kind of like 60, 70% of the value of your real estate. I don't know.
That's weird though, because I know a lot of people that get $1 million SBA loans and like there's no collateral other than the business, you know?
No, they collateralize your real estate. I promise. I looked really heavily into it.
Interesting.
So they require
so what are your main concerns?
on real estate. If you have equity, that's only if you have equity in real estate. That's the funny thing about SBA. If you don't have equity in the real estate, they don't collateralize it.
You can't put a phantom mortgage on your shit then?
Yes, I could, but I've got a lot of, shiz, as you would call it. And I got a lot of it free and clear. And, to do a phantom mortgage, and then when I have to go get a real mortgage, it just complicates things a little bit.
Yeah.
So anyways, I pulled out a loan on my rentals, and I got 3.7% financing over 25 years, and I used the cash from that loan to buy the business.
Right. And you think that after this merger, they're going to be able to get these up to doing $2 million net?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean,
so that's why
I think closer to 2.0
well, that's pretty good.
That's why you told me the other day on the phone that if these businesses do bad, you're gonna lose everything.
Yeah, and that's not reality. I mean, it's kind of a joke. Like if I lost the rentals and I have to sell the rentals to pay off the loans, and the businesses were worth nothing, which is very unlikely, but assuming they are.
And what about your time?
Ahead,
how much time are you expecting that these are going to take you? So like, how many hours a week are you expecting that you're going to be spending, kind of maybe let's say best case and worst case scenario, to be able to kind of do what you got to do?
30 to 50.
30 to 50 hours a week.
30 to 50, but I'm okay with that. Like for the last,
it's like a full-time job.
For the last 6 months, I mean, I was finding stuff to do. Like I was getting bored, to be honest with you. I hired a COO to help me run them, but during the merger, I mean, that's where the money's made, is during the merger. So I want to be heavily involved in getting these things merged. Once they're running efficiently, I don't need to be as involved, but I want to go out and buy more companies, and I want to grow in new markets. So to be able to hit that $40 to $50 million mark, I'm going to have to put in work. But I'm okay with that. Once you sell a company for $50 million, it's a lot easier to sit back and relax.
So
what is it about?
So you're working, you said 30 to 50 hours. Was that a week?
Yeah.
Got it.
And what is it about the 40 to 50 million bucks again that's so meaningful? I know in a past podcast you talked about you want to sell to private equity, so you have the experience in the full life cycle of buying a small business, improving its income, increasing its value, and selling out, so that you can then mentor and coach like other entrepreneurs and like invest in their businesses, and that's kind of your long term, is what you said on a previous podcast, I think. But what is it like? What is it about 40 50 million? Like what's the main benefit? Is it just is it the money? Is it the private equity piece and the experience?
To answer your question, John, honestly, my dream, and I don't know if it'll get there, but my dream is to assemble an A team, like a kick butt operations and a kick butt COO and a kick butt CFO and a really, really strong marketing executive, and go into businesses and saying, hey, we've got a team and we just took this business from this to that and sold it. We'll invest in your business and then we'll take it from this to that and sell it and give you a huge payday. And there's no way you can do it without us, and you need us. And we're more than just money, and we're more than just consulting. We're going to actually bring our team in to help you get there.
Yeah, so it's basically small venture capitalism, or it sounds like it's similar to The Profit, that TV show with Marcus Lemonis, right, where they're investing in businesses and they're improving operations and efficiencies and stuff and increasing the value and, selling or refining or whatever. Is that fair to say? Or?
Yeah, so one of my mentors just sold his blinds company for like over $100 million. And he approached me about doing a Netflix show. I guess Netflix approached him about doing a show. And I don't know where it's going to go, but he wants to do a Netflix show with me called The Fix. And it's kind of a mix between the Shark Tank and The Profit. where people come and like
Yeah.
pitch their ideas, and then you actually like take your team of experts, and like the show shows you implementing stuff to get them to the next level in like a condensed version of, you know, it might take 60 to 90 days. So, you know, maybe it's multiple episodes or whatever, but it's super intriguing. Like, that's my dream, to do stuff like that. This guy has already been there and done that. I would be kind of more of the help, you know, to help him do it. But something like that, I think, is just super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely cool. Yeah. And I mean, it's, you know, there's like that Tillman Frittata dude. There's like this show called Bar Rescue, right? There's a lot of shows out there where they take struggling businesses or businesses that need help, and they invest in them and they turn their operations around and stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think that'd be a very cool thing to do. I definitely see the appeal there for sure.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I don't know if
can-
anything will come of that, but I don't personally. I don't want to be on TV, but you know, I'd like to do it in real life.
Can you talk more about like kind of this first 90 days, you know? So what's like your plan, right? So you've got these two businesses now. You just bought them both within what, the past month, was it, or something?
Yeah.
last
So
month you
first
bought
90
them?
days is
Yeah.
all culture. Yeah. So the first 90 days is just all within the last week. Sorry, but the first 90 days is just all culture, and just driving in the culture. And you know, I added in. So we all talk about core values, but I actually kind of added a concept in with this bigger business that I don't know if it makes sense for small businesses, but they're called strategic anchors. And they're more outcome based than behavior based, where core values are more behavior based. And these are more outcome based, where, you know, our strategic anchors are an amazing customer experience or exceptional customer experience, and then a high quality, consistent product. And like, all of our decisions need to go through those two filters before you make a decision.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're talking to customers or you're making a decision on a to-do or a rock, you should think about those anchors. So, you know, that was something I learned from one of my mentors that I thought was super cool. So we're just going to drive that culture in for the next 90 days. You know, look, John, the people side of this is the hardest part. It really is. Like, you've got opinions, and I mean, just silly stuff. Like, somebody told one of the employees told a manager that they have COVID and she's sick. And then I reached out to that person to say, hey, here's a testing site, and I hope you feel better. And then that employee got mad at the manager for telling me, and that was unfair, and she shouldn't have done that. And it's just silly stuff like that, like, you have to deal with the people side of it. That makes it hard. And when you start and trying to come and merging the companies, you just got a lot of opinions on the way people do things, the processes that they feel comfortable. And oftentimes they don't like change. So there's a lot of like, that visionary side of you really has to step in and communicate very well what the vision is and the reason why you're making these changes. And sometimes that's why you lose people. People weed themselves because they think, I can't get on board with that vision.
And who's going to be your main COO or your main operations person? Is that going to be you? Is it going to be one of the existing leaders in one of the two businesses? Are you bringing someone in from the outside?
No, I brought someone from the outside. And, you know, one of the companies currently had somebody in that position. And luckily that person is super humble. And which is funny because one of the core values of that current company is humility. But that person's humble enough to say, hey, I was never really trained for this. I really don't have the skill set right now to do it. And I trust you that you have this bigger vision that I don't know about yet. And I'm okay with you bringing someone else in to fill this seat. And I'm going to move over to this seat that I'm more comfortable doing. So luckily I had somebody that was humble enough to do that. But not everybody's like that, right? People feel like they're good at a seat when there's something not.
Right. Or some people feel like they just want it and they want the chance to prove themselves, you know, and if you don't give them that chance, they feel like it's a slap in the face.
It just goes back to the get it, want it capacity. So somebody could want it, but they may not get it, right? They may not be the right person for that job.
For sure.
Yeah, totally. And how did you find the COO, and what makes you confident, you know, that they're the right, you know, person to be able to do
That's
this?
Probably one of the number one questions I get is, how do you find good talent like that? And weirdly enough, it's worked out twice for me and my wife in my life like this. Because I post so much on Facebook and I'm very open about my business and what I do, there are like oddly weird amounts of people that like I'll run into randomly and are like, oh, how was your trip here? Or tell me more about this or that. But they never like any of my stuff. They never comment on any of my stuff. Like they don't seem to, I didn't realize that they were following me. Not that they're stalking me, but you know what I mean? That they're paying attention. So, if you have a bigger picture for yourself and you want to be able to access talent, dude, getting yourself out on Facebook, it really attracts people to you. People can kind of see your personality and they can say, hey, I like what you do. I like who you are. I love your passion. I love this. I'm into the same things. And people that connect with your personality are going to reach out to you when you make a post like, hey, I'm doing this new cool thing and I'm looking for a head salesperson, or I'm looking for this. If anyone knows anyone, let me know. And you'll start getting random messages from people like, dude, I've been following you for a while. I'd love to look into it.
And that's where the COO is from one of those Facebook, like you reached out through Facebook?
Yep.
And what's his background, if you can share, in terms of like, has he run, businesses before or whatever, or, like what gives you the confidence, in him or her?
So I don't think if anybody listening has ever done traction, I don't think traction is the right fit for a person, a 100 employee company or 100 person company, whether employees or 1099. But he had been working for a roofing company for years running traction. And he was a good COO, in my opinion, knows how to hold people accountable and is very organized with meetings and one-on-ones and structure and processes, which I'm not good at. I suck at that crap. So, that he showed me some of his spreadsheets he put together for meetings and the one-on-one things he does and his alignment calls, and he's just structured, and that kind of gave me the confidence to say, okay, this is the right guy. And maybe some other people that reached out to me on Facebook and they had no experience in the industry and they had never run operations before. Did I think they were capable of figuring it out? Sure. But when you're about two companies merging them, you kind of need someone that can step in and do it.
Yeah, someone's got a track record, basically.
Yeah, I would think so. And are you having to give him equity, or are you choosing to give him equity, or is it just like a base plus bonus kind of structure?
So I do what's called, I forgot the name. It's like shadow equity, where they earn a profit. Yeah, phantom equity. They earn I always call it pirate equity. That's not the right word. They earn kind of equity, but if they get fired or they quit, I don't have to buy them out.
Right.
But if I sell, then they get paid out.
Does it step up over time, or if the business hits certain goals, they get more equity, or do you keep it flat?
Yeah, I like that. I'm big on the step up thing. I mean, just the other day I sent him an email like, hey, now that we're buying company number 2, it's time to put more time in. Like, we got to find time in the mornings and night and put more time in, because I really think we can hit this goal, and that goal being when he first steps up, right? If we start putting time in, and it kind of motivates people to push a little harder to get to those goals, in my opinion. So that's the way I've always structured things. Maybe it's because I'm motivated like that, but in his current job, his current employer, his old job, his old employer was not willing to give him any kind of equity. So it's very attractive to him for me to say, hey, there's going to be points where I'm traveling and I'm living my life and you're the guy. Like, treat this like it's your business. I really sold him on that entrepreneurial spirit. And a lot of people want that. A lot of these owners are so micromanaged and control every decision. And I'm constantly like, hey, what do you think? It's your decision, buddy. And I try not to care as much as I can. The more I don't care, the better the business seems to run.
Yeah. Empowering your people and incentivizing them in such a way that they feel ownership of the business. This seems like certainly, kind of solid, just good best practices for sure, right? Like anytime you're running or managing a small business. Yeah.
Weeds out the people that can't step it up and get it done.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility, right? And some people don't want to have that responsibility. It's sometimes easier for some people to be treated a little more like a child in a business where, you go to dad or mom and you get their okay on every little thing that you do. And some people work better that way. But like you're saying, I mean, it's impossible to have any real kind of scale if you're going to attempt to manage that way. And, you've got your cabinet business, you've got these 2 businesses now, you've got your real estate business. I mean, even if you wanted to, you just wouldn't have the capacity, I wouldn't think, to be that in the details on things. People got to step up to that. They gotta embrace that power, that responsibility that you're giving them, and they've got to thrive in that environment, or they're not the right fit.
Well, I'm at company number 2, so I'm walking in right now to go have the conversation. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
All right, man. Thanks everybody for listening.
Talk to you later, guys.
Later, bro.